Are you happy, England? Can we be friends now? English cricket. We got you out of a jam. Australian cricket speaking here. Actually, it's Adam Peacock on Willow Talk here with Alyssa Healy to review the T20 World Cup for the blokes over in the Caribbean. A very interesting day, Heels. And firstly, Australia did what it had to do to feel good about itself, and it made England feel good about itself in the process.
It's a win for everyone, I think, after today's result, probably except for Scotland. I think they were probably 2 catches away from potentially winning that game of cricket. So, look, at the end of the day, good result for Australia, and maybe you're right, England might lay off us for a change.
Yeah, maybe not likely. They'll just walk away and say, well, you did what you should have done, you heathens down there, you convicts, and all of that carry on. But in all seriousness, there was a few times today England were going to be out because of the weather where they were playing against Namibia, but they got through, they got that game done. And then Scotland, Heels, for long periods in that game, looked like they were well on top of Australia, especially with Australia batting, and it was only Stoinis and Head getting going after the 10-over mark that kind of pulled it all back. At what point was there great stress for Australia throughout that day?
I wouldn't say that there was great stress. I think, I mean, it's still a World Cup and every game's important, but I mean, the pressure was off Australia at every moment, knowing that game didn't necessarily count. But it's still a game of cricket in a World Cup, and you want to make sure that you're getting across the line and winning becomes a habit, right? So I wouldn't say there was any great stress, but I think when the run rate was up over 12 and over after that 10-over mark, it could have created a few extra opportunities, but they were able to get themselves over the line time and time again, and Scotland probably just let themselves down a little bit in the field in that regard.
We'll pick apart exactly what happened in that one, but overall, again, to your point about it didn't really mean anything for Australia, and it's exemplified by the fact that no matter what, we finished seeded second out of the group. I mean, it's a weird way. We talked about it on our last episode. It's a weird way, so that there was no incentive in terms of jeopardy for Australia. You don't miss out on anything by anything happening in that game, even though you got personal pride and weighing all that up. And it's a hard thing to weigh up exactly how much personal pride you've got as elite sports people in that situation. You would say, though, that the need to win superseded the fact that winning didn't mean anything.
Yeah, I think so. And I think especially in T20 format, having consistency in winning and keeping that momentum going regardless of the team that you're putting out there. I mean, Australia have been lucky that they've used 14, I think, of the 15 players now that are sitting, on the bench, or maybe 13. Cameron Green's been out there for a run around a little bit as well. So it's I think you still want to win every game and make it a habit. But in saying that, I've been a part of games and teams where when the game doesn't matter, you can tend to take your foot off the throat a little bit, and some bad habits tend to creep in. And I think we saw a little bit of a lacklustre effort in the field with the ball initially for the Aussie side, which you hope just doesn't creep into the most important areas of the games coming up in the Super 8s. But in saying that, they're the ultimate professionals, and they'll switch back on when need be. But it's hard to get yourself up in a situation like that knowing that game doesn't really matter. And even if you do win it well, you're still seeded second, and you're going into the Super 8s playing your opponents you already know about. So it is an interesting way to go about it, the tournament-wise, but it is what it is, and you just got to roll with it.
I mean, arguably looking at the way the draw's fallen for the Super 8s, which we'll get into greater detail later on, and even greater detail on our early week episode when Hads determines it's good enough to join us again. And hello to Hads if you're listening. But we'll go through it in fine detail there. But it's India, Afghanistan, and probably Bangladesh, unless a miracle happens and the Netherlands float through in that other group. But just to recap the day for England, before a ball was bowled in St Lucia between Australia and Scotland, and Australia ended up winning by 5 wickets. England were 47 minutes away from being eliminated due to rain in their match against Namibia. Ended up getting a 10-over game in. England 5 for 122. Harry Brook in good nick, 47 not out. Held Namibia to 3 for 84 to win by 41 runs, DLS method. It meant Scotland needed a win or a washout to advance. Not a cloud in the sky in St Lucia, so that took that out. You know Matthew Mott, the England coach, really well. Obviously come under a bit of heat in the last few days and out of the 50-over World Cup. Is he a stressful guy And would that have tested him greatly, the stress levels today going through all of that?
Yeah, I 100% think he's also a sensitive guy, so he would have heard all that noise around, him and the pressure that he's under. I feel like he would have heard it. I'm sure he would have been well supported within the group, and they would have had his back. But yeah, that would have been incredibly stressful. I mean, I just look back the 2020 World Cup we played here when he was coach of our side. I think something similar in this World Cup semi-final against South Africa at the SCG. It was some crazy similar where we just managed to get a game in, and that enabled us to go through to the final. So he's had a few of those stressful moments already, but at the end of the day, I mean, there's not much you can do about it. But I mean, to be 47 minutes away from being eliminated, that change room would have been in a state of panic, I presume, for a lot of that day.
What about watching Australia drop catches? How many cricket balls or golf balls, if they were holding them, or maybe fists went through walls watching that on? And I don't know if they watched it in the team room or whatever. I dare say that the England social account might fire up now and say how great it is we're through and post some vision. But if it went the other way, it wouldn't have happened, yeah?
100%. I can imagine, I can see the England Barmy Army account right throughout that fixture tweeting away or posting away about how Australia were trying to throw the game. I will say at no point did we look like we were trying to throw the game. It just looked like we were a little bit not quite there, but
off. Yeah,
a little bit off. But in saying that, we got the result we wanted, and it also helped out England. And maybe you're right. Maybe we can be friends again. I'm not sure.
Oh, for 5 minutes. Pat Cummins, Josh Hazlewood rested for this one in St Lucia against Scotland for Australia. So Nathan Ellis got another game, which is good, and Ashton Agar got his first game of the tournament. What do you reckon the thinking behind giving Ashton a game was, Heels?
Well, I think it's more so about experiencing the conditions. I mean, Australia have opted to just go for that one spinner and use Glenn Maxwell as a second spinner right throughout this World Cup and back themselves with the three quicks that they're picking. But Ashton Agar's really good at this format, really good with the white ball, and has unfortunately just been missing out because Zampa's been doing so well with the ball and the quicks have been doing their job as well. So the opportunity arose for him to get a game, get some experience in these conditions, and obviously knowing that they're going to play on some different wickets in the Super 8s. And that could potentially be a little more spin friendly, and there might be an opportunity to play that extra spinner and probably take some pressure off Glenn Maxwell. So I think it was a good decision. I'm sure he would have enjoyed the run around. He's been sitting watching a lot of cricket for a long period of time, so to get him involved in that sense is huge for the side leading forward.
Now that we've gone through the group stage, is there a type of surface that does not suit us, or we can adapt to anything with our squad?
I think with the versatility of our bowling lineup is second to none, I reckon. I think we can adapt to any surface that we've got. I mean, you look at Nathan Ellis's skills today, that wicket was pretty flat, was giving Scotland plenty of opportunities to clear the boundary, but the skills that Nathan Ellis can show with the ball means that he can come in and play a role for our side. If Josh or Pat doesn't play, we can swing the new ball, we can shut down the middle overs with our spin attack. So we are incredibly blessed with the versatility in which that we've got. It's more so just picking that right 11 on the day and making sure we're reading those conditions correctly at the toss.
So Australia bowled first, won the toss, and threw the arm over. But we asked our members of our T20 World Cup Instagram channel what they thought Scotland would score. A lot of predictions around 110 to 130, but Kale closest, 175. They ended with 5 for 180. So well done, Kale. Good stuff. Ashton Agar opened the bowling, actually, and then the ball was given to this bloke with a headband on. Mitchell Starc. Run us through that fashion choice.
I don't want to get into too much trouble and make a joke that I can't come back from, so I'm just going to toe the line and be like, maybe he needs a haircut and he needed to keep the hair out of the eyes. I'm going to roll with that, but that's as far as I'll go.
Okay. Yeah.
Good try, though. Good try. I mean, he watches and listens to the podcast, so I've got to be careful what I say in this department, but I'm sure I'll give him some feedback later.
Well, if he's listening to this one, Mitch, maybe try the Greg Matthews bowl with a hat on style. I don't know if that works, or put it backwards, or
put it backwards,
or as I pointed out to you on the group chat with producer Sam, how about the Pat Cash checkered headband? I mean, it's Australian icon stuff, that is. Anyway, whatever the case, the bloke has no luck. because we've talked about this, and Had's brought it up at the IPL. Like, he was getting a bit of stick for his bowling figures early in the tournament when they were playing on roads on postage stamps as well for grounds. And he's having a few catches drop. Phil Salt had a few issues early on with the gloves. Happen again here. What's he done? Doesn't he don't they like him?
I'm not sure what's going on. I have to say it was probably one of our most lacklustre performances in the field. I think the catching, not great. Just the opportunities that were going begging, not ideal. And like I said, I think momentum moving forward, you don't want that to start creeping in important moments at the back end of the World Cup, which I'm sure it won't. But yeah, Paul Mitch has copped a few in particular throughout this tournament, right through the IPL as well, been really unlucky. But knowing what he could do at the back end of tournaments, I think he'll be completely fine. But I think he's just got to laugh it off. And I think he has been doing that. I saw Healy lingering around him quite a bit, maybe giving him a few extra high fives just to make sure that the friendship's going okay, but I'm sure everything will be fine.
What's it like when a team has a fielding performance like that, which is short of their standard, not even their top level, but just the standard that they set, the benchmark, if you like? Is it put down to one of those days we'll just correct a few things technically and we'll be right next one? Or is it because it's a game without jeopardy, you're kind of lulled into that state of mind? Where do you place it? Yeah,
I think it was purely the state of the game. I think it knowing it didn't mean a lot. You try as hard as you possibly can to get up for that fixture, and you want to do everything perfectly, but there's still this little thing at the back of your mind saying it doesn't really matter. Like, this result doesn't really matter for us. We're already through. We're kind of going through the motions, and I think the first area that creeps into is your fielding. When your energy and your effort's not quite there, quite as sharp as what it needs to be, then you tend to miss chances. So that's potentially all that happened. I think we're a really, really good fielding side, and I think we've proven that over a number of years. You just hope that is a one-off. It hopefully gets addressed in the change room and go, righto, we've put that behind us. Let's go into this next fixture on Friday, bringing our best effort and making sure that, the fielding is up to standard, because ultimately that's what wins you World Cups.
Well, having a look at how Scotland split up and watching a lot of the swimming this week and relearning about negative split times and all of that. But Scotland actually 96 off their first 10, which meant only 84 off their second. They couldn't quite accelerate at the death there. But Brandon McMullen, really impressive, 60 off 33. And as a unit, Scotland aren't that far off, are they? We've seen some horrible mismatches in this T20, which you expect with so many emerging nations coming in. But Scotland look like a pretty handy cricket team, and it's not as if they're all 37, 38-year-old plotters.
Yeah, well, I think it's probably the opportunity for these guys to play a lot more in England and get into bigger, better competitions, not downplaying, playing in Scotland and what that's like, but the opportunity for these guys to play over in county cricket or the Vitality or the 100 competition over in England in particular, knowing that is the closest to them, creates great opportunities for them. And you're right, they're not far off. I think McMullen's technique tonight was outstanding, and the way that he hit straight back through the ball, especially over mid-off, which not many batters were doing tonight, and to clear the boundaries easily is what he did. It shows a great technique, but also a great amount of talent. So, yeah, they're definitely a team on the rise, and it shows the opportunities that they've had, in particular over the last few years, playing in these World Cups and playing against sides more regularly. Even just the announcement that Australia are going to play against them later in the year in a 3-match series is huge for a team like that. So, yeah, their opportunity to play against these bigger sides, they're going to learn more and more, and they're going to be a real threat, which is, I think, for the global game, really exciting to see.
And huge for the Australian cricket team, a team of golfers at the moment as well, so they're not too disappointed about that scheduling. Well,
that probably went from a schedule where people were like, well, I might have to have a break around that time of year, might be tired, to, I'll be there, available for selection, George. I've packed my golf clubs, I'm ready to go. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see who goes on that tour.
Just on Scotland as well, you might look at it and think, they're just a team of imports. Actually, no, the 11 today, 4 of them born in Scotland. A few South Africans, obviously, like McMullen, he's born in South Africa and naturalised through residency as well. But England can't talk about that because they've made generations of cricketers out of, from Alan Lamb to Kevin Peterson, the endless list of great cricketers that they've done with that. So they do have a bit of a cricketing culture to build on, and they did well. And my favourite tweet of the day actually was from the guys at Punters on Twitter, saying that Brandon McCullum sounds like someone from that Ricky Ponting cricket game where he couldn't get the rights to all the actual names, so he had to just make up randos close enough to the real thing. But this guy can play, absolutely. By the way, it was 6 drop catches by Australia, and it was the most in a men's T20 World Cup match, so a great record to have, eh?
Yeah, let's hope that somebody else stuffs up a little bit more than us and we can get rid of that record, because that doesn't read too well for Aussies who pride themselves on their fielding right throughout their career, but it is what it is. We'll be fine.
Hey, quick one on Stoin not bowling. We've remarked in the pool stage games that have taken place so far how well he's handled the conditions with the ball and his cross seam and all of that. Did you agree with that, not chucking in the ball just to get through without him?
Yeah, I think so. I think trusting the 5 bowlers that you've picked on that occasion, I think, is not such a bad thing. You know what Stoin can do. You know that he's bowling really well. He's taken wickets at crucial times, but seeing what you can get out of the other 5 bowlers that you've got in that regard, probably more important. And, you know, Maxi went for a few in his first couple of overs, but then bowled an outstanding last over to keep the Scottish team to a reasonable target. So just making sure that, you know, those guys are still ticking over and still trying to improve, I guess, probably behind that decision. But, I mean, it didn't affect Stoin's batting, so it's a good one for the team.
Australia play India in the Super 8s at this venue. We'll give it 48 hours before we discuss in greater detail what the best plan of attack is with our attack in that game. If we go something similar like today, or it's 3 quick Zampa and a bit of Glenn Maxwell and Marcus Stoinis as well. But for now, we're going to take a little pause. Scotland, 5 for 180. Australia, not all their own way in the run chase. Back in a sec. So how do you reckon Australia handled that run chase? 181 for victory, Heels, and getting it done late, but not without a few almighty scares.
Well, it just seemed like we're in a little bit of cruise control. I mean, Travis Head didn't have it all his own way throughout his innings. I think he was made to work really hard. He sort of kept up run rate wise or strike rate wise with hitting the boundaries, but wasn't too much happening in between, and that's just the way that he played. And I thought they bowled outstandingly well to him to keep him relatively quiet. Yes, he went on with it, but I thought they bowled really well to him early. And obviously losing 2 wickets in the power play as a Scotland bowling attack, you're like, here we go, we're into the middle order. But to have someone like Marcus Stoinis walk out and almost dominate down the other end and take the pressure off Travis Head as well, I think just meant that the chase was always in some sort of control. And you knew with the power that we had at the back end that if we got it somewhere down under 10 and over, we'd be okay. And just 1 or 2 big overs are crucial in that regard, and they managed to do that towards the back end.
Yeah, so Australia 3 for 74 after 10. Warner out cheaply. Head dropped on 15, by the way, which ended up being costly. Mitch Marsh, who looked like he hurt his finger, I hope that's okay. He was out for 8. Glenn Maxwell, clean bowled. Then Stoinis and Head came together. So in the modern day, Heels, I'm still trying to wrap my head, because I'm still you're a product of your environment. I get conditioned by the fact that when I grew up in the 80s, like Jeff Marsh and David Boone knocking it around and Australia eking to 5 for 225 off 50 overs was a decent score at the SCG on a Tuesday afternoon, day night, or you can only watch the first 2 hours on Channel 9. However, the modern day, there's a little snapshot in my childhood there. The modern day, though, in a T20 game, what's the line? Say you've got, at one point, like, I don't know, it was 80 or 45 or something like that. At what point does that become, we're in deep poo here? Like, it seems, like you said, it seems like they're still in control even in that moment.
Yeah, well, I think it depends on the conditions. I mean, if they're playing on a wicket that it's turning square, it's going up and down, like some of the wickets that we've seen throughout this World Cup, then 12 and over becomes a real challenge, and you've really got to take some risks to get that. But I think at the moment in the men's game, it seems like 12 and over is still, that you can do it in a canter. It literally takes two big shots and over, and you've got the run rate in that over. And it only often takes 2 big overs if you can get 18, 20 off 1 over. It kind of gets you well ahead of the ball game. So they wouldn't panic at that, knowing the power that they've got. I mean, you still had Tim David and Matthew Wade sitting in the sheds I tell you what would have been interesting if they had taken that catch in the last over and Mitch Starc is strolling out to the crease needing three off two balls, whatever it might have been. I think that could have created a little bit of panic, but 12 and over seems to be an easy thing for them at the moment on a good wicket, which they had tonight.
Yeah, it seems weird, but that's the world we live in, and yeah, especially with a guy like Timmy David with his big plank of wood coming out and clearing the boundary quite easily. With the way that they went about the chase, though, and if you're watching from an English perspective, at what point were you going, oh no, they got this, or no, they don't? If you were there, I'll tell
you what, yeah, there was one point where I thought they're going to need to put their foot down a little bit here. I think I was a little bit. It's getting further and further away, the balls and the runs, but I think the little bit of a rebuild in T20 cricket is completely different to a rebuild in the one day or the test format, in that they're still going at 8, 9, 10 and over, but they're not losing wickets, and I think that partnership was really crucial. I think the fact that they stayed at 3 for throughout the majority of that last 10 overs enabled them to then put the foot down when they needed to. So that was kind of the most crucial part. I think if they had lost 1 or 2 wickets straight after that 10 over mark, I think then you start to panic. But knowing that they were 3 down, 2 guys that are going along pretty well, hitting the ball nicely, you kind of back Australia in from that regard.
And they did, but not. I'm still trying to picture that England team room. What's the most stressed you've been watching a game of cricket? Is it when you're actually playing, or is it when someone like Mitch or another family member has been playing that you get more stressed that way?
I'm trying to think in a World Cup situation where, we've needed a team to win or we've wanted a team to win. I think there's been a few of those moments over the last sort of 15 years where you're yelling at the screen. Who summed it up perfectly over the weekend is Max Homer on Twitter about missing the cut in the US Open at the moment, and he's stated that he's going to be that guy on the couch yelling at the screen, what an idiot, when people make when they make bogeys or triple bogeys. It's been happening. So I feel like that sometimes that's me when I'm watching the game. Or why would you do that? Or what an idiot! Like how come they didn't get 2 hands to that? And I'm doing exactly the same thing at the same time. So yeah, I'm definitely more stressed watching than playing, even if I don't know the people involved. So it's a weird place to be.
That's because the Australian women's cricket team's basically won everything for the entirety of time, it feels like. So yeah, certainly in this generation. So hopefully that keeps rolling for you, Heels.
People think we do it easy, but we don't all the time. No. I think if you dive deeper, we haven't always traditionally done it easily. So there has been some tense times watching, I will say that.
Those little duck legs are paddling hard underneath the surface, huh? Yeah. Or graceful swans, I'll call you. Graceful swans.
Thank you.
Back to what we saw out there. So, yeah, I mean, Travis Head, Sharif copped 24 off 1 over, and that's when the acceleration happened. And it really came back under Australia control. And, I mean, every time they were cutting to the dugout, you didn't see anyone pacing around, or you have to stay in the same seats. What we did see is a few of the guys in singlets as well, just flashing the gun show. Yeah,
this is a stitch up because I hate that. I absolutely hate that. And I mean, it's obviously not a rule for the Aussie men's team in that they can't wear singlets on game day, but it's a very New Zealand thing to do, that they whack the singlets on at any opportunity that the sun's out or it's over 21 degrees. They've got the singlets on. So yeah, I don't like it, but it is what it is, and I will be having words with Mitch after the game to question as to what happened. To be honest, he actually just replied and said he didn't have a training shirt, so I've got to decide whether or not that's acceptable or not.
Sure, mate. Yeah. Did you spot him though doing the old AFL one where you put the hands under the biceps and then push them out to make them look bigger than they actually are?
Maybe once or twice.
Tim David could probably get away with it. I'd say Stoin can get away with it. Absolutely. I didn't see Matthew Wade with a singlet on though.
Well, and the irony in that is I haven't seen Marcus Stoinis in a singlet, so there you go.
Yeah, he just knows.
Yeah,
he just knows.
There you go. Anyway, I digress.
I can't imagine on the beach days that Stoin's got a shirt on full stop. So yeah, we'll park that one right there. But what he did do him and Stoinis and Travis Head is get Australia right back into it. 80 off 44, you do that in a T20, and there's the high probability that you're going to win the game. And that's what Australia did in the end. And Marcus Stoinis was adjudged man of the match. He's having a really good tournament, a really pivotal role for Australia. So what it all means? Well, nothing. As we've mentioned, absolutely jack you know what for Australia. It didn't change a thing. They'll play Bangladesh in Antigua on Friday. This is next week, obviously. Afghanistan in St Vincent on Sunday. Good thing is for Australian audiences, they're in good times. It's 10:30 in the morning Eastern, the start of those games. And then India in St Lucia, the venue of the Scotland game, next Tuesday 12:30 a.m. Eastern Australian time, because India want to watch it in their prime time. So that's why we've got that one. But would you say with USA, Windies, South Africa and England on the other side that we've just got the rougher end of the stick in terms of the split up of the Super 8s?
Yep, and that's purely because of the seeding situation, which I understand to an extent, but at the same time, it's a separate World Cup, and you're playing, you're playing years apart. So you got to go take the form on what's currently unfolding. But it is what it is, and I mean, at the end of the day, on the flip side of that is if we play really well and beat those oppositions, then it's only going to put us in an even better position leading into the Final Four. So. I think playing your best cricket against the best teams at this time of the tournament, not such a bad thing, but we're going to have to be made to work really hard, and I think in the long run that's what we love doing and getting over the top.
I cannot wait to see Hads on Tuesday with yourself and ask him a question, because he loves being right, doesn't he, Hads? Correct?
He's never wrong.
He's never wrong. He's tipped Afghanistan for the semis. So is his love for Australian cricket greater if it comes down to it, or is his love for being right greater and saying that Afghanistan is going to make the semis and not Australia?
Well, intriguing. Well, who are you saying isn't making it then? Out of that, so you're Bangladesh. Saying India. You're thinking if Australia miss out, it'll be India and Afghanistan. Yeah. If Australia miss out, but like, God honest truth, looking at what I've seen so far, and you can't really tell. I mean, India had a washout where they decided to take games to Florida, and I think they're going to have 3 washouts in a row because the outfield's no good at the ground that they put the game on in Florida. But I honestly believe that Australia are favourites for this overall. Not just saying that because of the accent and the passport I hold. I honestly believe on what I've seen and what you were talking about before, in my uneducated opinion, that the adaptability of our bowling attack is the envy of everyone else. So I don't know where you want to take that and say that Australia are favourites, but that's my shout. Well, I think they're right up there. I think their adaptability with both bat and ball is going to be what stands them apart and is how they're going to win this World Cup. I mean, they're going to be thrown with a few different wickets now leading into the Super 8s. We're going to have to adapt really quickly with bat in hand. We can't necessarily go one pace all the time. They might not be flat. So I think we've got all areas covered in that regard. It's just whether or not we can put it all together when it really matters. And I think when you look at other sides, that's where we stand apart. But I tell you what, Afghanistan have been playing really well, and like I said, if they get some interesting wickets, their bowling attack can do some real damage, and Gurbaz with the bat in particular has kind of got them over the line. So it'll be interesting to see if they can do that in the big moments now. Absolutely. Hills, I'll let you go and order a FedEx to get some T-shirts over to Mitch and maybe a couple of headbands as well. But thank you for the chat, and we'll catch you on Tuesday for an in-depth look at the Super 8s. Sounds good. Thanks for listening to this edition of Willow Talk. England, we love you. Yeah, thanks for watching the Willow Talk podcast on YouTube. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you don't have to miss an episode wherever you are. And while you're at it, check out these videos up here. They're mostly good.